I want to talk about this problem, which is 260 plus 260. I want to make the numbers just a little bit bigger. Okay. So we talked a little bit about, kind of friendly numbers and finding the next one. And there's a couple ways to think about this one. And remember, if it's helpful to you to think about doubling 26, you can. And 26 doubled is 52. Just don't forget to add the 0. Okay. But it's important for you to also keep in mind, especially when you're doing mental math, that place value is really important. So it's not, doubling 26 isn't quite right. You're really doubling 26 tens. If you double 26 tens, you get 52 tens, which is 520. And with place value, it's really important. I mean, with mental math, it's really important to keep track of place value, because if you're doing everything in your head, then sometimes it's easy to get confused. So while doubling 26 or thinking of it as 26 plus 26 might make sense, you're not, 260 plus 260 is not the same as 26 plus 26. So just be very careful. It seems like a simple thing, but it'll make things more difficult if I don't think about it in terms of the place value. So 26 tens plus 26 tens is 52 tens. Okay, that's not so bad if you're good with doubling. Let's take a look at this. So 150 plus 149 plus 151. And let's see what you get. So hopefully you got 450. If you did, that's great. And we were talking about finding kind of friendly numbers that are close to what we're given, and that sometimes are helpful to us to solve these problems. And in this, they don't always have to be, I mean, these are multiples of 10, but they don't have to be 100 or 200 or 300. It could be like 150 in this case. And so for this, these are all very close to 150. So if you think of this as being 153 times, you get 450. Okay. If I think of it as being 150 plus 150 plus 150, you just have to think, do I have to adjust my answer in the end? Because while what I was given, I had 150, I was also given 149 and 151. And I kind of changed them to 150 to make this mental math strategy work. So I made 149 bigger by 1. And then I made 151 smaller by 1. And those cancel each other out, so I know I'm okay. And if you were with me the last time we did this, we talked about how to kind of adjust the numbers to help. Okay. Let's take a look at another one that's kind of like it. So 252 plus 247 plus 249. So I'll give you a moment. What are those numbers really close to that are friendly that maybe that would be easy to add? So these numbers are close to 250, and adding 250 to itself 3 times isn't so bad. Because maybe you're really good at counting by 25s, or you're really good with money. Sometimes you learn counting, you use coins like quarters. So this is the thing that you want to hold in your head is 750, because 250 plus 250 plus 250 is 750. But then you have to think, okay, well, I wasn't given 250. I was given 3 different numbers, and I have to talk about how to adjust it. Okay. So now how do you adjust your answer? When I turn 252 to 250, I made it smaller by 2, which means that in order for me to make it right, I have to add 2. Okay, I have to do the opposite. When I made 247 into 250, I made it bigger by 3, which means that that's too big, and I have to take 3 away. And when I turned 249 into 250, I made it bigger by 1, which means I added too much. That means I also have to take 1 away. So if I start at 750 and add 2 to it, I get 752. I take 3 away, I get 749, and I take 1 more away from that, and I get my final answer, which is 748. So we start with our friendly number, and then we just adjust it. Okay. There are other ways to think about it. Maybe you thought of it as, because I can borrow, so if I take 2 away from this 252, I can think of this as being 250. That makes this 249. And if I take 1 away from this, I can make this a 250. And since I took 1 away, that's 248. And maybe that was easier. Either way. Just things for you to think about. And you might have thought that problem was going to be super difficult right off the bat, but it's not so bad. You just have to practice. Let's take a look at something sort of similar to that. So how about 199 plus 98 plus 297? So sort of the same, but just one little difference. So what are all those numbers close to? And this is different because they're different numbers. So 199 is close to 200. 98 is close to 100, and 297 is close to 300. So 600 is what you want to hold in your head, and that's the hard part. It's like you do something first and you have to hold that in your head for just a moment. Because I'm going to start here now. But in this one, I made all of these numbers bigger. So the question, is this too big or too small? If I made all 3 of these bigger, then this sum is too big, and I just have to think about how I need to adjust it to get my final answer. Okay. Well, I made this one bigger by 1. That means I need to take 1 away. I made this one bigger by 2, which means I need to take 2 away. And I made this one bigger by 3, which means I need to take 3 away because I have to balance it. Okay. I can't just add something to it and not take it away later. So I take away 1, 2, and 3. That's the same as taking away 6. And the final answer is 594. That's kind of your brain. That's what should be going on in your head as you're thinking about these. Okay? Just things for you to practice, and I'll give you some practice problems later. Let's take a look at let's move on to subtraction. So we'll kind of look at subtraction, we'll go all the way back to kind of where we started today. before I lost some of you with the frozen whiteboard. What's 300 minus 60? And hopefully you got 240. And I mentioned this the last time we had a lesson on mental math, that as you continue to practice, sometimes with mental math, it's better to work from left to right, which seems weird because in math, a lot of times we work from right to left with computation. And you just have to practice enough to know when it makes sense. Remember that if it helps, you can think of this as being 30 minus 6. But again, 300 minus 60 and 30 minus 6 are not the same thing. So it's really 30 tens minus 6 tens, which is 24 tens, which is 240. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to build up off of that just a little bit. Okay. So what about something like 530 minus 70? And what I would like you to do is start looking at things like this and start thinking these are kind of friendly numbers the way that they are. Okay. So yeah, you could kind of think of 530, maybe it's close to 500, and that might help. But I want you to kind of start looking at these and thinking, okay, these are kind of friendly the way that they are. Remember, if it helps you, you're really looking at 53 minus 7, but remember, it's in terms of tens. So just be careful there. And hopefully you got 460. Now, if you really want to look at it in a different way, and you want to think about friendly numbers, the question is how many tens do you have to subtract from 530 to get down to 500? So you're thinking 30 or 3 tens. I really want to subtract 70, which means I haven't subtracted enough. I still need to subtract 40 more. And 500 minus 40 is 460. So sometimes with subtraction, you think I'm going to start at 53, I'm going to go 3 down to 50, and then down 4 more to 46. It's the same idea. It's just a bigger number. Okay. Let's take a look at something maybe just a little bit harder than that. How about 840 minus 73? Now, if you were in school and your teacher asked you to do this, you might be like, you have to start borrowing and things. And subtraction with borrowing isn't a lot of fun. But doing it mentally, it is fun. But think about what we just did a moment ago. And I'll give you another step that you can be thinking in your head. Well, what about 840 minus 70? You think 73 is kind of close to 70, which it is. But maybe that helps. So you do this first and you hold 770 in your head. And like I said, you're doing multiple steps, and what you have to hold in the back of your head is kind of the hard part sometimes. You have to remember what it is. Because remember, the goal is to do all of this without any pencil, paper, anything, just all in your head. So I have 770, and to get there, I subtracted 70, but that wasn't enough. I really wanted to subtract 73, which means from here, I need to subtract 3 more. So 770, take 3 away, is 767. And if you keep practicing, we're building up. And for some of you, I'll bet before we started, you would have never thought about doing something like that in your head. But I want you to think about these things first before you go there. And being able to do it this way is really important too. And sometimes your teacher wants you to be able to do it that way. But I want you to force yourself to practice these things too. Okay. I'll give you another one like that to practice. So how about 720 minus 48? And think about what your first mental step could be. So 48 is really close to what number? It's close to 50. And the more you practice 720 minus 50, you can do that in your head. You just have to build your way up to it. And you get 670. But I changed this, so I have to change this. Now the question is, when I subtracted 50, did I subtract too much or not enough? And I subtracted too much. I really only wanted to take away 48, which means I have to take this and add 2 to it, and I get 672. Okay. Let's take a look at a couple. I know you've been doing a lot of, if you've been on Mathnasium Schoolhouse this week, you've been doing a lot of multiplication. I want to show you a couple multiplication things before we stop for today. And I'll go a couple minutes over since I had the problems with my whiteboard. So let's take a look at 68 times 10. And 68 is kind of a big number to multiply. What do you get? And the question is, when you multiply something by 10, what's the easiest way to think about that? You add a 0. It's 680. Okay. So when I multiply something by 10, I want to take that original thing and add a 0. And it doesn't matter how big that number gets. I want to take that and I want to add 0 to it. Okay, and that's place value. I'm moving everything to the left when I'm adding a 0. Okay, I'm increasing it by a factor of 10. Now, why did I ask you that question? Because if you've been doing multiplication, then you kind of know that. That's not anything new. What about something like 46 times 20? And there's a couple ways that you can start thinking about multiplying times 20. So what do you think? One way is to take 46 and double it. So what is 46 doubled? And you should get 92. And add a 0. That's one way to think of it. Okay. Another way to think of it is using what we just talked about. And depending on how good you are with your doubles, this could be easy or kind of tricky and something that you would have to practice. If I multiply something by 10, that's the same as adding a 0, but then I need to double this. And 460 doubled is 920. Okay. So either way, you get 920. What I want you to remember is when you multiply something by 20, that's the same as either doubling it and then multiplying it times 10, or multiply times 10 first and then double it. And I'll bet some of you didn't even think about, if you're just learning your multiplication facts, that multiplying something by 20 could be that easy. But it is. Let's look at, here's a practice one. So 28 times 20. So what is that? So remember, there's a couple ways that you can think about this. You could take 28 and double it, which is 56, and add a 0, and you get 560. Or you can take 28 and multiply times 10, which is just adding a 0, and then double that, and you get 560. This one, you have to double, a bigger number, but if you're okay with that, then it's not so bad. Okay, now let's talk about something kind of cool. So this is the challenge of the day. So if I wanted you to calculate that, the first question is, maybe you're not quite sure what that means. This 2 is your exponent, and it tells me to take this and multiply it times itself. Okay, so 17 squared is the same as 17 times 17. Okay. And a lot of you, if you're practicing multiplication and you're working on your multiplication facts, you only learn through your 12s, and then you learn all these other really cool techniques like you learned in the schoolhouse earlier this week on how to figure out things like 17 times 17. They're not so bad. But what's cool about this is that you can take a number and square it easily in your head if you practice this technique, because it actually allows you to find friendlier numbers to deal with. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to take this number and I want to find the nearest 10, the nearest friendly number in this case, which is 20. So I increased 17 by 3 to get to 20. And I want to decrease 17 here. Okay, so whatever I do here, I do the opposite here. So I increase this 17 by 3, I decrease this 17 by 3. Now we just talked about the multiplying by 20 is not so bad. That either I could double it and add a 0, or I can multiply by 10 and double it. Either way, that's pretty easy. But there's one more step that you have to do. Whatever number I chose, I have to multiply it times itself and add it in the end. Okay? And the reason why this works is actually not that bad, but it requires a little bit of algebra. So if you want to look it up later or have your parent try to help you find out why this works, it just takes a little bit of algebra. You don't even have to do it with algebra and variables and stuff, but the reason why it works is actually not that complicated if you want to look it up. 17 squared, 17 times 17 is 289. And there's a little trick. That's how I take two things. If I want to multiply them times itself, how I can use friendlier numbers, I just have to remember to add that thing in the end. I'm going to give you one more for you to practice. So 24 squared. So remember what squared means. I'm going to take 24 and multiply it times itself. And for some of you, you may be thinking there are a lot of other ways to think about 24 times 24, like what's 24 times 20 plus 24 times 4? And that works too. Well, remember, I want to take this and find the nearest kind of friendly number. I'm going to actually think about it in terms of 20. So I took 4 away here, which means I want to add 4 to this one. But remember, whatever it is that I chose, I have to multiply it times itself and add it at the end. And we talked about a couple of really good ways to think about 20 multiplying times 20. 20 times 28 is 560, plus 16 more is 576. And if that's what you got, you are right. And awesome job. You might be thinking if the last couple of examples that we've done have all been around 20. And I did that for a reason because I wanted to connect it all together. But it doesn't matter. You can do 78 squared the exact same way. It will work. So it doesn't have to be 20. It could be anything, all right? Well, that is it. I apologize if you stuck with me through the text stuff. I really appreciate that you did. I'm really proud of you for all your awesome answers and all the hard work you put in. We have a lot of awesome stuff in the Mathnasium Schoolhouse planned for you for next week. We're here Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific. And I will be back next Friday to talk about some really cool and interesting stuff that I'll bet you've never thought about before. So stay tuned for that and stay tuned for what that topic is. It's a little sneak preview, but I am really excited about that one, and I'm excited for all the other sessions next week as well. So have an awesome weekend, and I will see you next Friday. Bye now.
It's afternoons that seem to be the most hectic for us, so it was much more convenient when we found Mathnasium at home.
All right, so how do we do half of 5? I think one of the best things about at home is that it really feels like you're almost at home with the student in their house teaching them.
I'm in my comfort zone.
You can just ask for help and the instructor will come right to you.
With Mathnasium at home, I know that they're getting the help that they need.
Awesome, great job.
Mathnasium, changing lives through math.